Two going. There we go. All right. And I was so anxious this whole time that it took 20 minutes to tech, even though when we first started, I said it might take 15 to 20 minutes in the beginning to tech, and I still got anxiety over it. Anyway, what's up? How's it going?
Good. I'm going to turn down my volume on my phone here.
All right. While you do that, it's the Never Lie podcast. What's up, everybody? We're your hosts. I'm TJ. That's Vanessa. I should probably develop some like formal introduction for this, but whatever, you know. Some people don't like shows overly produced. I don't, but maybe we should have some sort of format. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. I think people like authenticity, so I'm all about just whatever.
Cool. How have you been? What's going on with you? You know what I never asked in the last one? I haven't asked how has quarantine affected you and how have you been dealing with it, and what's quarantine life like for you?
I have created like a cluster kind of scenario where I think a lot of people are going to do things similarly. So there are certain folks that I will allow to be around me, and I think vice versa. So
Okay.
I actually have this sort of theory that there's going to be like a pod-like environment moving forward where people have kind of like weeded out those toxic creatures or potentially noisy, energy-sucking individuals and sort of hand-selected the creatures that they think add value just kind of organically. And then there's going to be almost like these little pod-like tribes that are going to potentially even live together because of the socioeconomic impact. I have this theory that in the future there are going to be like just a gaggle of folks that are going to kind of band together and just exist. This is my futuristic thinking.
Well, I mean, we've already started to do that, right? When we quarantined, you had to stay with the people who lived in your home because we didn't know anything about this virus. And now the more that we've learned about it, the more we've branched out a little bit, but we're still kind of in pods. At my school, they took all the classes and broke them down into even smaller classes, and they call each class a pod. And I've definitely, even the people who like don't suck your energy, not only have I eliminated those people, but like the people who don't bring anything to the table either, I've like eliminated those people because even though they're not taking anything, they're not doing anything wrong or bad, but also they're not adding anything. And if you're not adding, you're not helping me grow. And if you're not growing, you're dying. So yeah, I think you're spot on with that.
Yeah, I can feel like there's like, originally I had this really tragic breakup. So I was feeling isolated, and then I was feeling isolated because of COVID. But then about a month later, I realized that it was not just myself that was feeling isolated, that it was like this collective experience. And so I think everybody is trying to also look out for the ones that they care about. So reaching out to people and checking in on those that you hold near and dear and just being like, how are you doing? How are you doing? Because it's like mutually beneficial. You're kind of needing it, giving it, and there's only a few that you can kind of give that to that are worthy. So I think that It's a really beautiful experience, actually, in some ways.
Yeah, I had to learn that a lot of people aren't worthy of my giving. And then I also had to learn that a lot of people just don't appreciate a give and take. So again, even if they're well-meaning, if the give and take isn't there, it's taking away from you. And yeah, I've also been just like reaching out to not only people who are near and dear to me, but just like people who I've been cool with, who've just been my friends. Like, even if it's just like, hey, what's up on Facebook, or we went to college together. Like a lot of those people I've just been texting and checking up on a regular basis, just to make sure they're okay. Cause this is fucking us up like really badly. Like This is a collective global trauma that we're all taking on, and it's just like how the USA does with everything else, it's exacerbated here because we're not doing anything federally to try to fucking control this thing. So it's just a big fucking trauma that the entire globe is going through together. And I don't know, I think the only way is to strengthen the relationships that you have and everybody takes care of each other.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's been unique, and that there's a perspective shift that you can have toward gratitude around studying oneself, being alone, and then kind of from ground zero, figuring out who really matters. So, yeah.
Do you like to spend, do you prefer time alone or you prefer being around people?
I like to be alone. I had always liked being alone. I kind of got a little rusty. This relationship that I was in, the person was extremely needy. So that was, I lost myself slightly. So I have now kind of rediscovered that part of myself that just, I have never had a problem being alone. But I am also learning how to, and I know we've talked about this a little bit, how to ask for help and not be afraid to sort of lean on others. It's just who you lean on. I think it's like, that's part of, it's totally interrelated. Like, who can you trust to ask for help so that they don't shame you?
Yeah.
And a beautiful experience as well.
Or that they don't come through for you and then you're like, oh, well, I could have just did that myself. Like, why'd I ask you for help and you didn't come through? Yeah. I posted something on Facebook um specifically about that. Let me see if I can find it, about accepting help from people. It's basically the point that like being extremely independent is a trauma response because people haven't showed up for you in the past. Oh, here it is. Let's say. All right. The inability to receive support from others is a trauma response. I don't need anyone. I'll do it myself. Condition is a survival tactic, and you needed it to shield your heart from abuse, neglect, betrayal, and disappointment from those who could not or would not be there from you, from the parent who is absent and abandoned you by choice, or the parent who is never home from working 3 jobs to feed you and house you. Just gives a few more examples, but basically extreme independence is a trust issue that's come from the trauma of people not being there for you.
Yeah. So who sort of do you trust? I mean, who are the people? Are they family? Not always. I think people get kind of confused about that also. They think blood is thicker than water and all of this other crap. So I will rely on some people, but they're not who you might think.
For example?
I have had a lot of challenges with family members, and so a lot of trauma there. So my friends are just my family.
Yeah.
Those are my tribe.
Yeah, because family is not a noun; it's a verb. So just because you're like related to each other, if people don't do the actions that come with being a family, then you can't pretend in the other end that they're family too, because everybody's on both sides has got to do their part.
Right.
Yeah, and it's just really, I don't know. It's just, I've really run out of the words to describe how all this feels. It's like all of that, and like we were mentioning, re-examining your relationships, and then like just our physical well-being, our psychological well-being, and this circus of presidential election that's going on. It's just so many things every single day. I don't even know how to describe what this experience is like.
So what a great interrelated conversation, because I think for me, 4 years ago, I already started the process. I don't know about you, but I was already kind of trimming the fat because I was seeing things that were really disgusting in terms of racism and sexism and so many other ugly attributes were coming out of people. So now it's, with coronavirus, it's really doubled down. But I don't, this is nothing new for me, almost like a rebirth. like truly like a caterpillar going into the cocoon and coming out, I feel as if it's a blessing. I would prefer to be in the know. I know that ignorance is supposed to be bliss, but I would rather know who you are. I just live very authentically. I know I have all kinds of issues, one of which I could never be accused of being a liar.
Yes.
Like I kind of wear it out there, and I pride myself in that, and I kind of surround myself now with people similarly authentic. I'm allergic to bullshit, especially now, and the older I get, and it's hard to sort of trust people and understand what authenticity looks like when there are so many frauds. But that's, I guess, the next part of my journey. I don't know if you experienced trying to figure out who to trust.
So I've gotten past so my visceral reaction to people is to blindly 100% trust them, because I feel like I'm strong enough to deal with what anybody can do against me. And in my heart, I just want to be kind and loving towards people. So that's my visceral reaction. Now, going off my experiences, I've learned that everybody isn't worthy of that 100% trust, and it's less so about the hurt that they did to me, more so about the amount of energy that it takes to maintain that kind of relationship. Where I would like to be is not even having to think about steps 1 and 2, just authentically being in the moment of authentically engaging this person, and if they're worthy of my love and friendship, but not through the lens of I've gotten here because of pain I've experienced in the past. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a challenge because you're going to have a lot of noise coming at you, right? So your history and your insecurities and whatever, cognition that's ugly sort of finds you have to kind of get away from. So it's I would imagine it's, something that you have to work on.
Yeah, it's really, really hard, because again, my visceral reaction is just want to be loving and open and giving and sharing, and you just can't do that. And it's particularly painful for me because, like, after going through my divorce, I lost a lot of friends and a lot of relationships changed, and I thought it was because of the divorce, but then I realized that a lot of these people were treating the way they ended up treating me when we got divorced. They were treating a bunch of other people in their lives that way, but they weren't treating me that way. So it didn't feel like it was a problem until, the dynamic changed and they got an opportunity to treat me that way. So it's, that part was painful. And now I'm just getting to the part of taking away the how much I want it to be and just fully engaging what it actually is.
Yeah, it also probably involves a little bit of lowering expectations of people sometimes. So if you have this idealized, vision of how people will behave similar to yourself, you're oftentimes going to be disappointed. It's almost like, I think Amy Schumer talks about in one of her stand-ups where she talks about like the media kind of getting into our minds as far as like the Hallmark commercials and the Huggies commercials, right? So when you see a Huggies commercial and it's like, oh, having a baby and all this wonderful music, and when you have a baby, it's a fucking nightmare. It's like, what the hell did I do here? No one ever talks about it. But the idea is like, it's like this, like the media makes us think that like when you meet someone, you should be, friendly and kind of like, I am very much like of this Freudian perspective that like people aren't always just innately good. It's just, I think there's also this spectrum of evil that we're kind of even witnessing too. So it's like we're seeing the ugliest end of the spectrum versus like the Hallmark Huggies commercial.
Yeah.
So I would imagine somewhere in the middle is the sweet spot of like how we can, engage and be kind and civil and the rest.
Yeah, well, I personally think that we are both good and evil, and the human experience is constantly fighting against the evil. And obviously, people have their different experiences, but I think the difference between really good people is the people who like decide to actively fight against the evil every single day. Now, again, people have different support systems and different upbringings, so there's a spectrum of how much they can even begin to engage that. But I think just fundamentally, you have to make an effort every single day to fight against the evil. And if you don't fight against it, it can take over. And if you actively engage the evil, then it can turn into, this motherfucker we got in the White House.
Okay. All right. So let's go there.
You say you didn't get a chance to watch the debates last night, but I'll give you a quick synopsis. It was it was an adult trying to have a debate with a petulant, evil child. Less interrupting, but definitely still interrupting. There wasn't any like cringeworthy, like them yelling back and forth at each other moments. The key things to take away was one, Pence's denial of systematic racism. They both, I'm not sure if Pence answered any questions. He definitely deflected on a vast majority of them. I'm not sure if he answered any. Kamala non-answered a couple questions. I don't think her and Biden aren't going to answer the question about packing the Senate until they've won. So I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing to not answer that question, because it actually doesn't hold any weight outside of how conservatives think about it. So people who are already going to vote for them is not going to affect whether they vote for them or not. But I think they're worried about the undecideds, and that's why they're not going to answer that question. Pence looks like he may have COVID. His eyes were bloodshot red the entire time. He didn't focus on any I think it's their strategy to never look into the camera. So he never looks into the camera. He never really looked at the moderator. He never really looked at Kamala. It looked like he found like a spot or two in the room and just like staring at those spots even as he was answering questions. And at one point, this big ass fly fell on Pence's head, and which raised the question: does he even have the ability to feel? Because he did not feel that big ass fly on his head.
I think that was my favorite absolute thing that ever happened, because I don't give a shit if a fly lands on your face. But every judgmental asshole Republican thinks that that's ridiculous and stupid and funny. So that's going to become, in some ways, like a weakness for him. Also, the fly has a Twitter page, I think, with over 100,000 followers.
Oh, and I noticed it maybe about 10 or 15 minutes after the fly, and it had already had like 5,000 followers.
I don't know how big this fly is going to get. This fly is like legend. I mean, there's not a shortage of material. That's the one thing about this administration. Mm-hmm. Like SNL writers, like as soon as they saw the fly, they were like, get your fucking pen. Like there is no shortage of material. It
all writes itself. It very much writes itself. I said on social media, he looks like a demon that's fighting to keep his human form. It's just like this intense focus on nothing in particular. It's very strange. A couple other people say he looks like he's wearing a skin suit. It's like
all I ever hear him say is like the president, he's just like, just a professional ass kisser. He's hired to not be a hothead. He just sits and sort of, just because you're spewing bullshit calmly doesn't mean that we don't see it's bullshit.
Yeah. And Trump has gone on a record as saying that Pence's ability to dodge and deflect questions, he sees it as a skill. I should tell you everything you need to know. I mean, what else is there to say about these motherfuckers? I don't know. I kind of hate that we have to talk about it, because this shit is like, honestly, our lives are hanging in the balance. So we have to keep talking about it. We have to keep it in our consciousness. But it's just, everything about it is just so blatantly obvious, and everybody who supports these fucking assholes are just so blatantly obvious about it's a one-track mind of he hates all the same people that we hate, so it don't matter what else. It doesn't matter. It don't matter that he hates us too. As long as he hates the same people that we hate, we're going to be on board for anything that he does.
So let me ask you a question, because I am here in Congers, New York.
Mm-hmm.
I've owned this house for 20 years. I raised my son here.
About how far out of the city is it?
I'm 20 minutes north of Manhattan, so
Okay.
not far, really, up the river, by Nyack, by Palisades Mall, by Tappan Zee Bridge. But I have a weird thing where there are Trump supporters. I'm looking at a Trump 2020 sign right now outside of my window as I gaze over my pride flag. That's actually a real flag on a flagpole, and I'm not gay. I should just take a screenshot of the Trump 2020, and the neighbor across the street similarly has a Trump 2020. Are they white men? Yes. Are they annoying? Yes. Did they put the signs up right after I put my flag up? Yes. Do I think that they're related? No. Do I think they're assholes? Yes. Do you have this in Brooklyn?
Not in my neighborhood. I would the neighborhoods in Brooklyn that have money, they at least want to keep the front of liberalism. So any Trump supporters in like Brooklyn Heights, Cobble Hill, Dumbo, any of those neighborhoods that have Trump supporters, they are not flying flags about it.
Okay.
But there has to be. There has to be. I don't see how they couldn't be.
But you don't see it how like we see it in like suburban, it's an uncomfortable experience. I actually see it, enough. And like if I go see my girlfriend down the shore, the whole boating community is the whole other thing with like all these flags on the boats. It's a little bit of a weird kind of insulated vibe. I just get nervous. Is that part of a bigger story? I don't know what that means.
Oh no, that's just how coward ass white supremacists do. Like your neighbors across the street, they didn't decide authentically that I want to put Trump 2020 in my yard. They saw your flag and was like, look at those fucking faggots across the street. I'm getting my Trump sign. And it's so hateful. It's so inauthentic. It's so fucking cowardice, but you can see it because they do it the same way no one will come and knock on your door and call you anything derogatory to your face, or when they see you walking down the street, they won't do it to your face, or they won't throw eggs at you. They won't do any of that. But the second they get to do stuff sneaky handily and indirectly, like Trump signs, like Trump flags, like I'm sure you've seen on social media, black families getting notes in their mail about whatever the fuck from racist people. It's so cowardice and disingenuous that it's fucking pathetic, but it's so many of them. What can we do?
So one of my neighbors put up a very, very large and ornate American flag. Like my pride flag is on a flagpole. But there's some flagpoles that are like flagpoles, and then there are flagpoles that have like an eagle on top, like it's like an ornamental flagpole. So this fool he's never had an American flag until I put up my pride flag. And
exactly.
He literally carries this flag and he erects it. It's not on a real flagpole, but it's on like something he like affixed to his fence, so it shoots out. And I wonder, so if Biden should become elected, I'm going to put the American flag on my flagpole. I wonder if he'll keep his up.
No, he definitely won't. He definitely won't. When the American flag just gets to stand for but even the ideals that the American flag stand for are fake, but let's pretend that they are. So even when those things are real, if it's not if it's not their idea, and if it doesn't directly degrade somebody, they don't give a fuck. because there's no consequence to them to not engage it. So they don't give a fuck. But now that they're emboldened to fucking speak out about their racism or to be anti-LGBTQ or to be xenophobic or any, now that the climate allows them to do it, now they feel empowered to do it. But when the climate doesn't allow it, they just fucking pack their shit up and stay quiet to themselves. But even in this climate, has any of your neighbors said anything to you directly?
No.
Exactly.
No. But I'm very curious to see, I'm going to put up the American flag just to see what he does, actually, now that I just thought about it out loud. I really am curious to see if he keeps it up.
He will definitely do something passive aggressive. And like, I'm so sick of these people. If you feel that strongly to build a fucking fancy flag post, how come you don't feel strongly enough to go have a conversation with somebody?
I was at a barbecue at one of the neighbors' houses years ago, and they threw out the N-word. And I left the barbecue. And I haven't been in communication with a lot of my neighbors actually since then. One was supposed to be in my wedding when I married my ex-husband. And she was a beloved friend of mine. And like I had mentioned earlier, I have cut so many people out of my life. I've watched so many friends mutually argue on Facebook about politics. I mean, shit got ugly between people. And I was like, damn, I thought it was only me. I watched people argue. And I realized that, yes, it's painful. Yes, it's uncomfortable. And again, going back to our original conversation, like, I would rather know who you are. This is a moral compass thing. Like, if you're not on the same page, like, I don't want to sort of spend all my energy schooling you. I don't have that kind of time. I have my master's in social policy. I'm not trying to, like, I paid a lot of money for that. Go get your own.
Go get your own. Fuck you. Get out of here. So, wait, your neighbor who said the N-word, what was the context?
Oh, it was a young girl, and she said the classic statement of, there are black people and then there are
niggas. Wait, did she say niggas or did she say hard R niggers?
Oh, she held the R.
Oh my god.
She held the R. Yeah, no, she. And the thing with being a white girl or white person, or when you look like me, let's say.
Oh, sorry. Can you hold on 1 second? I got a delivery coming. Sorry. Hello? All right, so I'm coming out. Baby, can you go get the delivery at the door? Got wine delivery. Side note, don't tell me you've been out here for a while. Your job is to deliver my fucking shit, and then I tip you. What the fuck else you doing with your time? At whatever. Oh, you didn't hear them. He was, the dude was saying, I've been out here for a while because I forgot we were getting a delivery and I ignored the fuck on the side. Don't tell me you out here for a while. What else? Anyway, sorry.
That's okay.
All right. Sorry. Back. So get yourself back on track.
All right. What were we talking about? I don't remember.
Context, N-word. She said she held the hard R.
So being white, people think they could just say anything in front of you. That's the thing. So I'll be at barbecues, people just be talking shit. And I'm like, oh my God, I gotta go. I don't have the kind of time to just, I did school her. I asked her to go get educated. I did school her. I didn't like totally pull like a pussy move. And I've always done that. Always done that.
So what'd you say to her?
I've gotten into a lot of trouble because of it. I told her to go get educated, that she didn't know what she was talking about. She was young. But there have been a lot of times where I'm just like, I might say something to a beloved friend that looks something like this, like, your husband is a racist. Do me a favor, don't raise your children like that, or something like that. I've tried to get away from the whole go fuck yourself because I've gotten into a lot of trouble. Just people always are telling me that I'm aggressive. So,
but like that's a dog whistle though. Like whenever, like that's you only feel that way about black people, or you only feel that way when someone's defending black people, meaning that you, even though you're saying it calmly and you saying nigger, that's violence. Nigger coming out of a white person's mouth is violence. So you just you just sitting there minding your white ass business, and then somebody just says nigger for no reason. You feel like shit too. So now your response to that aggression is getting isolated as if you're the one who started being aggressive, when really you're being aggressive because I got to protect myself from this aggressive person.
Yeah. It's really reactive abuse. You're totally quite right. I think for me, it was like, I think it was aggressive, and I think it scared me. And over time, I guess I developed like a security blanket for myself to try to get away from people like that.
Yeah.
Because I was feeling like triggered. So, but yeah, I historically have been totally piss and vinegar about stuff like that. Never held back. And it's not just racism. It would be any sort of injustice, anybody who is disenfranchised for the most part. I remember being like that in middle school, defending when somebody was being bullied. So I feel that way holistically. I just get sort of triggered, and it's a big burden, as you know, to sort of walk around as an empath and experience the world's traumas. So I did practice some self-care, and I've tried to get a little bit better about that. But yeah, it's gotten also overwhelming with this particular political climate. I mean, it would be like, I can't even take in every stray dog. It's overwhelming. I can't fix the entire climate. I can't do it all alone. It's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. It is a big, even like in my highly privileged life, like I have an education. I live in a really nice condo. I'm a man, so I don't have to worry about my safety that much. Like I have so much privilege. And then every day in the world, I have to go out and be like any sort of disagreement, confrontation, whatever in general society, I'm never going to get the benefit of the doubt. So not only do I have to avoid confrontation, when confrontation is unavoidable, I have to be the one who's level-headed. I have to be the one who has the articulate argument. I can't be the one who gets physically aggressive. And once you understand that, you start with hope of getting the benefit of the doubt, hope. And once you learn you don't get the benefit of the doubt, that like changes you psychologically. And the hope becomes more of like I don't know, hope becomes more of an ideal than something that is, can be accomplished. Because if for all intents and purposes, if the white institutions, the people who are ahead of these white institutions, all they got to do is leave us alone and we'll be fine. Just leave us alone. We'll be fine. But they just refuse to leave us alone. So now we have to carry around this psychological burden every single day. And like you said, it's exhausting. It's very exhausting.
What I'm hearing you say is, you're a white girl. Go ahead and run your mouth.
but here's the next thing. So again, I used to be in my like mid 20s to about like my early 30s. I used to be like, there's a lot of pain in the world. There's a lot of oppression in the world, and Black people are part of that oppression. But we're not any different than anybody else who's been oppressed. So I look at it as other dark-skinned people who are oppressed, women who are oppressed, anybody who's oppressed. I used to look at it as we share that experience of oppression. So I'm going to give everybody like the same level of what's the word I'm looking for? The same level of benefit of the doubt. Right. Yep. But now that I've gotten older and gotten more educated on just like structurally how this country came to be and the beefs that England had before they fucking kicked out their middle class and colonized them, like when I look at all of that shit, you see that the common denominator is oppressing the dark-skinned people first. That's the common denominator across the board. So now it's not just we're all oppressed, we share in this oppression. Even within oppressed groups, the darker you are, the more oppressed you are. So now I when I walk out of the house now, my high beams are on. I'm like, I'm looking for where the bullshit is coming from because I know it's coming from somewhere. So I got to look for it. I can't come out benefit of the doubt like even kill anymore because the second I get relaxed is the second somebody's going to fucking try to take advantage of me. Mm-hmm. And so now I'm selective about how I say things. I'm selective about who I say things to. But when I say it, I don't mince words. And I'm very plain. I'm very clear. And I make sure to be evident about saying black and saying dark-skinned people and being specific about that. It's not just all these oppressed people. It's that even within these oppressed people, the darkest people get it the worst.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thing to imagine in the future when we all have a zillion babies and everybody's mixed race. Even then, somebody who's just slightly has a different pigment, or somebody who's a little shorter, or somebody, whomever is vulnerable, it seems. There's like a pathology, again, back to the whole Freudian thing. It's like, whatever rotten side of you doesn't get fixed, any pathology, here it comes. So let's pretend we were all the same color. There's going to be some bullshit, some vulnerability, that we will discover and craft and, make up so we can keep you down and make ourselves feel better.
And we're not animals. Obviously we are animals, but we're not animals in the context of predators eat the weakest animals, not because they want to oppress the weakest animals. They eat them because they have a finite amount of energy that they have to constantly conserve. And the best way to get food and to conserve that energy is to eat the weakest animals. But here in human world, we don't have to hunt for our food. Like, we don't have to kill people for us to eat. So it's very confusing to me why people feel the need to, instead of when you see somebody weaker, let alone helping them, why can't you just leave them the fuck alone and go about your business? Like, it's baffling to me.
Yeah, I think it is part of the ego. Something is wounded, some trauma exists where they have to feed their own ego. This is their kind of primitive way to do so. They don't have the skills developed to nurture themselves. So.
It's do you think that some people are just incapable as opposed to egotistically unwilling?
Yes, I do. And I only learned that this year through what I've experienced. I was very naive in my liberal thinking and imagined everybody could be rehabilitated. I do not feel that way anymore. As a matter of fact, I thought about getting a gun, which I never thought of doing before this year. Because
I agree. I'm fundamentally opposed to guns, but if we lived anywhere but New York, we would definitely have one.
Yeah, I feel that people are evil, and they may be evil based on trauma, and that's fine. But what the bigger piece for me is that the evilness cannot be remedied. Yeah. That is what I've struggled with. In other words, if you were traumatized as a young child to the extent that you don't even think there's anything wrong with you, as a matter of fact, you sort of like the way you are. Yeah. This is serving you. There's nothing to change here. You can have all the insight in the world, but your insight only discovers that you're great and you're wonderful and there's nothing fucking wrong with you. That, when they're not able to connect the dots, they don't understand empathy because they've never felt it. They don't understand love because they've never felt it. Then you can't teach love. You can't teach empathy. It's not happening. And this has been, recorded. The data says that there are certain personality disorders that don't experience that. And those people are very dangerous, whether it's psychological, physical, Any of those personality disorders I find to be not fixable. And that's where I struggle because I don't know what people are capable of. I don't know, as a woman, I get concerned about, like you had mentioned, like getting victimized. So I've had friends tell me, I have a friend, Tina, she was a sergeant in the Marines for 9 years. And she told me, always make contact, eye contact. You never want to let somebody know that you're vulnerable because there are predators out there. So you always want to sort of puff out your chest, your feathers, like, fuck you, it's on, and sort of even, hi, how are you? And like being kind of like don't give off a vibe that you can be victimized. And so as a woman, I've practiced that as a runner, but I have kind of felt a shift, something ugly going on. I have a little bit of a different awakening. And so I am concerned around like, what it all is going to mean. I don't know. I have like an anxiety about this sort of patriarchal experience, this toxic masculinity, similar, not that I would take away from your experience, but as a woman, I do have fears. I see and hear from clients that they're aware that somebody as a runner gets smacked on the ass because the guy's wearing a mask and he knows no one can identify him. So like there's just weird things going on different times. I don't know if you've noticed, people are driving aggressively and there's all of these, like, we're so polarized, and what is that masculinity going to mean to me? So I get nervous about that.
Yeah. And like I was talking about my privilege earlier, I don't get any of that because like people automatically look at me and see tall and dark and I'm automatically a threat. So no one comes at me like aggressively. I get the passive aggression and I get the overly nice to black people racism. So, but my partner, all the things that you're talking about, my partner, she gets all of that times 10. So like when we're together, like I have to like dress dudes down. Like, what the fuck are you looking at? Why are you looking at her? Because I know if she was by herself, it would be much, much worse.
There's a guy, I don't know if I told you this, when I go out running, there's a guy in Congress and he walks his dog and I have my AirPods in and I'm on the opposite side of the road. And from across the double yellow line road, he yells at me, "Good morning," because I owe him a good morning. So I, as a radical feminist, object. So I carry on, I just look, I keep going. Next time he runs past me, he's now on the same side of the road.
Oh my God.
He does the whole thing. Good morning. Good morning. He's leaning in. I run around him. I say nothing. The third time, he blocked me on the sidewalk.
Oh my God.
During a pandemic, it's like, you don't like get up in my space. And I literally I had to go into the street and go around him. So the fourth time, my girlfriend gave me a taser, so I'm going to bring it with me when I run.
Tase that motherfucker. If he blocks the road again, keep your running path and tase him. Because no, that's like blocking your way when you're trying to just go through your day. That's violence. That's him saying that I try to bend your will socially and you won't allow me to bend your will. So now I'm going to bend your will physically. That's violence. Tase his ass.
Yeah,
Tase his ass.
Yep. I totally agree with you. He is so offensive to me because I also have the AirPods in. It's not even like, but he's owed this, right? Yeah. It's almost like telling him, like, smile, like, fuck you.
Fuck you. I want to smile. Yeah. And if you were running with a man, he wouldn't do anything anywhere near that.
No, I've gotten it on my bike. I've had people tell me, get down in the saddle, and I've done 2 Ironman events. I have an $8,000 bike. I'm one of the fittest people I know, and I've had men tell me that, and I'm like, do I look like I need you to tell me how the fuck to ride a bike? Does anything about my energy say that I give a fuck about anything you have to say right now? But like that's the obliviousness of white men. They just live in a world
where there's really no consequences to anything. And once they think it and feel it, to them it is. And they won't let anything stop them from letting that is be. And it's white guys, that's a totally different
And
conversation. Are you
you're seeing it unleashed in the White House, though. You are seeing everything we've talked about completely personified, right? So very Freudian. Trump has no ability. He's a giant child. He's been, just supported his entire life. He can say whatever he wants to say. No, there's never been any consequences to his behavior. It is, again, the end of the fucking spectrum.
Oh, it's fucking disgusting. And now to top it all off, the fucking White House is a COVID hotspot. Like Trump got COVID, Stephen Miller got COVID, your boy Chris Christie got COVID. Who else? Hope Hicks got COVID, Melania got COVID, Pence probably got COVID. Like what kind of shiny, polished third world country do we live in right now?
And how about when he went and he stood on the thing and he was like Hitler-esque? What the fuck was that?
And he was like sucking air every 10 seconds. He's horrible. I hate this motherfucker. I hate that we have to talk about him so much.
I know. I'm hoping 3 more weeks and we can at least.
Hopefully, I will again the hope thing. Last election, I was very naive in thinking that what kind of morons would elect Donald Trump, and here we are. So this time around, I'm like, it could happen again, regardless of all the blatantly obvious. Like 2 days ago, he was like, fuck stimulus checks. We'll talk about it after the election. Like, what?
That is very narcissistic, by the way.
Yeah.
The narcissist always dangles a carrot because they're going to future fake. So, follow me and give me what I want. So narcissistic, like grade A.
Oh, and next they're supposed to do a virtual debate because he got COVID, and he just has been like, nah, I'm not going to do it. Yeah, he just opted out. I don't know if they're going to eventually cave in, but his initial stance is, I'm not going to do it.
How many people, too, do you think are nurses that are Republican and are like, I had to stuff this creature into a body bag, and then I had to do it 5 minutes later, and you're saying, don't be afraid of COVID? How many Republican nurses? I know my girlfriend works at Good Sam, and she was telling me that the new body bags that were given out were a big problem for the hospitals. The old body bags were, you zip them up, and that was it. They have a new body bag. I don't know who the fuck's cutting corners, always some big conglomerate, right? That you have to take the body and squish it into a fetal position before you put it like a circle into the body bag. And how many nurses do you think have experienced that trauma that he's discounting COVID? So I have to imagine that he sort of shot himself in the foot for some motherfucker. One lady somewhere was like, whoa, no?
We think logically and rationally. So our logical, rational minds go, okay, grab him by the pussy didn't get him. Okay, fuck stimulus checks didn't get him. Okay, coronavirus. Maybe squishing corpses into a ball because they're running out of money for body bags. Maybe, hopefully this get him. Nah, this ain't get him.
You're right.
They are
There's nothing.
I was watching this clip on Comedy Central, and this guy was interviewing Trump supporters, and he basically would ask them very basic, very simple questions about, so like Obama, for example. He asked one lady, so do you believe he's a citizen? And she was like, no, he's not a citizen. I would need some proof. I would need like a third party to tell me that he was born here. And he was like, maybe his mother. She was like, no, his mother would be biased for him. And he was like, oh, so Trump was born here? She's like, yeah, Trump's born here. She was like, how do you know that? He's like, well, his mother says he was born here, so that makes him born here. And so he was like, do you Me and but that is what it is. They've decided. They've decided that again. He fuck the fact that he hates me. He hates all the same people that I hate, and that's enough for me. And I'm just gonna be on board with whatever he says. It's
Yeah.
it's terrifying.
It is terrifying. And also, I don't even want him to get away with just being a racist. I am totally offended by that because is he a racist? Absolutely. Is he malignant in his sociopathology? Yes.
Yes.
You know, it's he checks every fucking box.
Every box, like blatantly. There's no conversations to be had about it.
There's no redeeming quality. He's not even charming. Like I could see if like,
Yeah,
and he's
charisma.
also not even wealthy.
He's not. We don't even know how much money he doesn't have.
No, he's disgusting. He's a disgusting, disgusting creature. I've never hated anybody so much that I've never met.
Same. I've never wished ill will and death on anybody, and so I hope he dies fucking slowly and painfully. I hope he die. I hope all the motherfuckers in the White House who got COVID, who support this nigga, I hope they all die fucking slowly and painfully because y'all just it's up to 210,000 deaths in the United States now, and y'all just let these people die. Y'all let them die. So I don't like that's a genocide.
I mean, I'd love to see him.
Go ahead.
I would love to see him go to prison just because of his hair and his skin tone. It would just be so fun.
And his jowls, his chin hangs down to like almost his chest. It's disgusting.
No, and I want to see him in something other than a suit. I want to see him in a sweatshirt. Even I would take a t-shirt so we could I just want him to be, you know, I want the emperor to just be a regular human. I think that I'm offended by the superficiality, the bullshit. He's not a Christian, all of it. He's just gross. He's so gross.
How am I trying to ask this? So when it first became apparent that you had friends and loved ones who are Trump supporters, how did you broach those conversations? Did they just come out of the blue and you didn't know, or was this things that you were holding on to for a while that you finally had to get off your chest, or like shit on Facebook?
A lot of it was very aggressive on my part. I don't do passive aggression. I don't do passive. I usually just do aggression. It's something I have to work on.
No,
but it would
don't.
Be like
it's people are comfortable being violently passive aggressive to you, so be fucking aggressive to them.
But it would probably be a text like, I can't be friends with you anymore. And also, like, I can't believe you're letting your daughters witness this. You're a bad mom.
Wow. And I assume not well, but what kind of responses would you get? You got me?
Wait,
you hear me?
What'd you say?
I said, what kind of responses would you get?
Generally people would just ghost or run away, and I could understand that. I'm obviously insulting, but I did struggle with witnessing people, and still I'm struggling. I don't get it. I have a couple of theories, right? So the racist one is rather strong. The other one is disenfranchised millionaires, people who think that people who don't understand the class system, and it's even that it exists. So they don't understand the class system. They don't understand the working class. They don't understand poverty. They don't understand that the gap is widening. They just don't see themselves as poor because it's offensive. That's something in there, again, the ego that doesn't want to adopt that. But so they think they're essentially disenfranchised millionaires. They think that they're supposed to, if they subscribe to these beliefs, that they too will, live that lifestyle.
Interesting. It's weird to me to like just not be able to see what's directly in front of your face. Like to make any sort of money in this country, like you have to have some basic fundamental understanding of taxes and tax brackets. And when you walk around your own neighborhood, as opposed to when you walk around a more upscale neighborhood, just that very concrete thing of like, my house is this size and that person's house is that size. They have more money than me. So like to not understand that, like, that's not a coincidence. Like an entire system made that happen that you're a part of because you pay taxes every time you get a paycheck. Just that I can't understand that level of disconnect. I just can't.
Yeah, I mean, the thing though that you have to sort of understand about America, I think too, and I say that respectfully, is that we covet money, we covet capitalism, we covet fancy, shiny, big things. Our values are skewed. They're not healthy
At all.
Right, and so there isn't any understanding of what is important. There aren't conversations around what is a good thing to value. So for me, my ground zero is my girlfriend. My friends grew up at this house in Tuxedo Park, and it's a dome. And I was raised by hippies, and we go there a couple times a year, and we sit. And there's plumbing, but there's no heat. It's heated by fire, and like it's just an amazing experience. But I think it's, again, the other end of the spectrum where it's like totally like basic, like love. We're eating with our fingers from, like, we're freezing. We sit in the snow by the fire. There's nothing other than real connection. But we don't have that sense in this nation around like what is real or authentic. It's all superficial bullshit.
Yeah, it's even when you have money, a lot of people would much rather go into $4 million of debt to make it look like they have 10 million rather than just being happy having 1 million. It's a sickness. It's a sickness. Yeah. It's a lack of empathy. It starts from not valuing yourself, because if you valued yourself and if you valued your time and if you valued your experience, you wouldn't sell out your time for things, right? So people don't value themselves, so they want outside validation. So they put themselves to the side to get these things because they want recognition from everyone else. And it's just this sick cycle that just goes in circles, and it's pathetic. It's pathetic at this point, because before, right now, even it was obvious to me in the mid 90s, right? But even then, on a social scale, on a wider scale, it wasn't made so blatantly obvious. But now all of it is so fucking obvious that the people who don't get it don't want to get it. I don't think they lack for anything. I think they're actively rejecting taking in new information because there's no consequence to them to not taking new information. And it's pathetic. It's really pathetic.
Yeah, it's a snowball. I don't know how we undo it right now, other than to make, being real sexy. Somehow being real has to become sexy.
And
these reality shows are not doing it. So we need like an upkick in real talk.
Yeah. And not only do we need to like focus and make real talk and real values valuable, we also have to socially ostracize the people who don't do that. We have to make it clear that what you're doing, it's not acceptable. And you can go make your own society over there, but you can't be a part of this society, because this society is about a collective and you're about yourself. And like when you were saying earlier, you say you need to work on being less aggressive. No, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't. Because if talking to people calmly and rationally and logically worked, you wouldn't be getting aggressive with them.
Sure.
You know what? You got to speak people's language. Like, this entire administration is violent. All they understand is violence. So the fact that we want to come at them with like intellect and diplomacy and education and empathy, they don't speak none of those languages. What language they do speak is, I'm gonna punch you in your fucking face if you keep getting too close to me. And it may not change their behavior of how they act and believe in general, but they won't get close to you again. Bet that much.
Right.
Yeah, man. Punch violent people. Punch racists. You're none of your neighbors are they're calling you all sorts of shit in their house, and they're mumbling shit under their breath when they see you, but they ain't saying nothing to your face.
Now we understand why she has all these breakups, because she's gay.
Because she's gay. Oh, she don't know that she's gay. Yep. You fucking idiot. And do their wives let them fuck them anymore? I'm guessing no.
One of them was flirting with me, and I was like,
there you go.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Yeah, and so again, he don't have the social skills and the savvy to attract someone like you. And so he can't bend your will because you're his neighbor, but the next best thing he can do is denigrate you covertly and passive aggressively with signs. And that's the patheticness.
Your will bending. I'm going to steal that. You gave me a couple of great little things today that I'm stealing.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, guys are terrible. Guys, I can't. I mean, I simultaneously can and can't believe that this dude blocked your path while you're trying to just go for a fucking run.
But I have an idea for another conversation if you want. I have an idea. I have to figure this out. My journey, part of my journey and part of my goal is figuring this out as it relates to my relationship with men, because I made one.
Okay. What's your pattern with men?
I feel like that is a conversation for another day, because I feel like it's so, I have to think about that. Actually, I have to think about that. I don't know if there's necessarily a pattern other than I would be people-pleasing, approval-seeking, codependent, and a lot of times, because I have such a strong personality, the men would always like adopt my interests. And I wonder if I could handle a man that would be like, nah, bitch, I'm over here, which is exactly what I need.
Yeah, we all need people who are whole people before they meet us, and you need them to continue their own interests while you're with. Yeah, we all need that. Yeah. So, like, what initial approach? What initial approach from a guy has worked?
What, meeting men?
Yeah. So when a guy approaches you, and he's obviously flirting with you and you're interested, what's his approach like that attracts you?
The only thing that will definitely disarm me and get the barriers down fully 100% is humor.
Okay.
Because I am so intense. When you sort of get like,
you gotta cut through the tension with some humor.
When that happens, I feel like it's like a drug. I'm like, tell me more. I don't want to be fucking intense.
All right, so he's funny, and you guys have a vibe. Now, what's the conduit from funny, having a good time, to potential little intimacy, something? What's the transition there look like?
Probably that's going to be interesting moving forward. I think that there's new barriers. So I would say smart, but then the trust is going to be, that's where you need to help me out. Trust is going to be hard for me.
What what again, we're still talking about first meeting, initial impression. What are some like subtle or maybe not so subtle things that you get from an initial reaction that either tells you that this person is potentially trustworthy or this is an immediate red flag?
Um, I, I'm not sure yet. I have to really work on that. I'm not kidding. Like I have had situations where I was made to believe somebody was trustworthy, very forthcoming, very talkative, very this, very
Mm-hmm.
oh my god, tell me about their trauma and like, um, and that failed miserably. And then I've had people that were reserved and that failed miserably. So I'm still trying to identify what authenticity will look like. I do suppose that somebody who shares their passions, right? Someone said
Mm-hmm.
to me that when they're looking for a partner, one of the first questions they might ask when going on their first date is, "What are you passionate about?"
Yeah, it's a great question.
Right? And so, like, maybe that's a way to go is to just kind of see if because the person who doesn't have empathy or love would almost be confused by a question like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. What do you mean passion about? I make a bunch of money. What do you mean passion?
Passion. What is the passion you speak of?
Um, um, I had a next question after that, and I completely forgot my question. We're talking about trust, passion. Um, oh God, I had a good one, and I forgot it that quickly. Oh well, it'll come back. Oh yeah. Here's what I want to ask: when you, so your headspace now. I know you're not looking to date, but are you open to it?
Um, yeah, I think I kind of, it's so funny because I have decided to run across the state of New York in a dress,
I saw that.
a wedding dress in May. I think it's going to be May 10th. It should take me about 10 days. And I have sort of decided that at the end of that run, I will sort of kind of hopefully like disengage from this part of my life to some extent and like kind of give myself a little bit of a finish line there, like
Mm-hmm.
literally and, not literally to sort of move forward. So am I open to it? Yeah. Am I taking it seriously? No. I think part of my openness is like to see if like I still can even feel anything. Like
Mm-hmm.
selfishly, I'm like, do I have mojo? Like, is it even possible to physically feel? Like it's selfishly me seeing that I'm not broken.
That's fair. And so you can speak to either now or in the past, but when you meet someone that is interesting, that may spark some sort of interest, what are you looking for from that? Like, is it I'm looking for a relationship, I'm looking for marriage, or is it something else?
Probably not anymore. I've been married twice. And the second wedding, I should say, was in the Bahamas, and it was the dopest wedding. Like, if you were going to have a wedding, it was like epic. Took over. It was really fun. It was a bunch of partiers. It's kind of legendary. So I don't need a wedding.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would like to have an authentic relationship, a love affair that's lasting, that's committed, that's real, with a man. And I would like to, practice, the ebbs and flows of kind of that relationship in a healthy way. I don't think that I'm looking for marriage. I'm not interested in that. I'm trying to build my brand. So financially, I'm just fully secure. I'm okay. I'm making more money than I ever have. I've owned this house for 20 years. I don't have, I have the credit score of an old white man. Issues, no debt, but just trying to get myself financially in a position where I don't need to kind of think about those variables. Let's say,
Yeah.
but yeah, I would like to have a connection. I still romanticize that concept.
Mm-hmm. So, like, what I like to tell a lot of my female friends who are navigating dating. A lot of them like go into dates like it's an interview for a future husband. And so they have a bunch of boxes in their head that they need to check off. And when you are doing that, you're not being in the moment. You're not genuinely engaging this person because you have an end goal in mind, but you haven't even engaged whether or not you want to walk this path with that person. You've just decided since they're here now, you're going to give them a try in your head. So what I've been advising to them is one, just your goal for a date should be to just have fun. So even if the date is horrible, you're going to have fun telling all your girlfriends how horrible this date was. So that should be your number one.
I
And
agree with you. I love that. I've had so many miserable and amazingly fun dates.
yeah. And number two, it's all the things that you say you want from a partner. Like, one, are you capable of giving that to yourself? Two, is someone in your life who's a friend or a family member or one of your girlfriends, are those people giving you those things also? So if you are fulfilled in those areas and you just feel like you want a man to give that to you, like that's your ego not accepting the fact that maybe I'll be with someone for the rest of my life. Maybe I'll be with 4 or 5 someones for 5-10 year stretches. You don't know what the actual relationship length or intensity is going to be. But if you focus on how you grow being around that person, then you start to accept that like divorce isn't failure. The relationship just ran its course, and either someone was willfully deceitful, or the two of you just weren't at a place to have a forever. You know, it's not a bad thing. It's not a failure. It's not a lack of. It's that there are literally 1 million different types of love, and you need to be open to all of them to make yourself whole.
Yep, I fully agree with that. And I'm definitely there for the first time in my life. So the good news is that no matter what, I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah. I had to, like, that's the mindset I had when
So
I got
TJ,
divorced.
I got to roll.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to do anything when it comes, to be honest. You can do whatever the fuck you feel like it. So that's one of the beauties of life. And also, like, guys suck to such an extent that you're not really missing out on anything. The next thing I wanted to ask you, because we've been on for a while, so we should wrap up soon. But
Yeah,
the next thing I want to ask is, you got to decide if you're going to date white guys anymore.
Oh, I have dated plenty of black guys. That's another. We should talk about that next time.
Next time, yeah, because I mean, I've obviously never dated men, but just my experience with black men specifically and men in color in general versus how we engage women versus how white men engage women. It's like two completely different worlds, and at some point, you get.
My first love was Ron Pierre Lewis. He was Haitian. We lived in Spring Valley. Then I lived with another person from my high school because I went to Spring Valley High School. So I definitely don't have a type. Let's put it that way.
Awesome. Wow, that was a lot of fun. You want to plug all your stuff before we go?
Yeah, so you can find me at teletherapist.net. I am specializing in health-assisted psychotherapy. I'm starting a nonprofit called teletherapist.org. It's a referral system for clinicians specializing also in narcissism.
Awesome. 10.1 on Twitter, the number 10.1 on Instagram, Thomas EJ Stokes on Facebook. MyMotivation.com is my personal training. You can also find My Motivation on all social media platforms. Yeah, I think that's it. That was awesome. And we'll be back at it next week.
All right. Thank you.
Later.